I went to special efforts today. Trains cancelled, so I've been on everything. But yeah, I'm here and delighted to be here too.
Well, we're delighted to have you, Sean. I must admit, as much as you've been where all our jokes have come from, we have absolutely missed you. It's great to have you back. And you can get in your questions for Sean, because I know a lot of you were worried he was MIA. You know, search parties had begun. Do not worry, Sean is in the building. Tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us on 0208 70 20 558. And you can talk to Sean for yourself. He is here. You know, we haven't pre-recorded this whatsoever. But today we will talk about the disappointing defeat on the weekend to Leicester 5-0. What is going wrong? A lack of discipline, no shape, tactics being the question. Steve Bruce, we will be talking all of the fallout from the game and also previewing the game against Man United, because maybe Newcastle aren't on a great run, but they could be getting the points against United because they don't have the momentum either. It's going to be a cracker of a game. We will see what the boys think in the studio. Let's start off though with Leicester on the weekend. Laurie, you was there. You were flying the flag for the Newcastle fans. What was the atmosphere like and what did you think of the game?
Well, yeah, to be fair, we were flying the flag for Newcastle. The atmosphere was absolutely unbelievable in the way end, despite the worst game ever. I mean, since our last game. But no, the atmosphere was incredible. I mean, and even when we were going 4-0 down, 5-0 down, it was getting louder and louder. Who's That Team We Call United was ringing out from the away end for the last 20 minutes non-stop. We didn't sing anything else. The atmosphere was incredible, but quite honestly, that performance didn't deserve it. The players' application didn't deserve it, and Steve Bruce absolutely didn't deserve it. We haven't even got on to Mike Ashley. Don't really want to talk about him, but he definitely didn't deserve it either.
Well, we won't get onto him just yet. Let's talk about that game then, because you said, you know, the worst performance since the last one. Jim, we were speaking before the show started this evening, and you actually mentioned you thought the Brighton game, in terms of performance, was actually worse.
Well, given the fact that 11 men for Newcastle's part were on the field during that game, and then for that to happen this week, and to see it's regressed totally since last year. There's been no improvement. It's just been total regression game on game, seemingly. And to hear, you know, Laurie was saying about the fans and their patience and the complaints and the narrative that's been built about Steve Bruce having a hard time at Newcastle after that happening and the week before with the away fans. That he doesn't know he's born, quite frankly, in my opinion. But as a game to watch, it was just, it started out okay, I guess, but you always felt that Leicester could go up a gear, and the first goal was just far too easy. It was a good finish, but there was just no challenge. Midfield was non-existent at that point, and I have to admit I lost a massive interest once the third goal went in, because it only just looked like they were going to chalk up more and more each time. So this is impassioned about something as I felt on this show so far, in terms of just frustration, anger, apathy, a mix of all those things, and it's almost getting beyond the football individual results now, and there's just a narrative of total regression, and you know, I quite enjoyed the laugh for having the little recording of Sean there, so thanks for that. I needed that, yeah. But yeah, it just it's very, very bad news, and I think I can't see beyond being in the bottom three, if not bottom, at the end of the season. It's absolutely chronic. I was sat there.
Seems like you've almost got chronic fatigue yourself from watching it.
Yes, yeah. Well, words fail me how bad that was. And like you say about the Brighton result, it was as bad with 11 men on the pitch, and that was as bad as I've seen at home, I think, with the Newcastle performance prior to that. So the fact that, like I said, the fact that the fans were in such good voice is absolutely amazing, but mystifying to me at the same time.
Well, we know of that fantastic away spot. There is a boycott. The home attendances haven't been the strongest, but the away support is still there. They were in strong voice at the end. But Jim, you alluded to dark days ahead for Newcastle. Let's bring him in now. The King has returned. Sean, a really disappointing performance on the weekend. A strong performance from you tonight. You've managed to turn up. Your commitment and desire for one is one that the Newcastle players should look towards, watch the tape back. They can lean on you for, maybe a bit of inspiration. But what did you make on the weekend?
It's very similar, to how Jim and Laurie's felt, and I think everyone else for that matter. It's, we've had really, it's not been a great start, as it's at the end of the day. The game against Leicester, the team played very similar to how they played against Norwich. They were all over the place. They didn't seem to know what they were doing, disorganised. I mean, how many weeks are we going to sit in here and say the same thing, But we knew that this was going to happen. We knew that this was going to happen when Steve Bruce was appointed, We knew what we were getting. It would seem that Mike Ashley didn't, Mike Ashley swapped a world-class manager and Rafa Benitez for Steve Bruce at the end of the day. We as fans don't deserve Steve Bruce. We don't deserve what's happening on the pitch. We fans don't deserve that as a whole. They proved that, week in, week out with the support. Unfortunately, I think that Mike Ashley does deserve Steve Bruce because he's messed around perfectly good managers, and he's sacked good people and he's sacked good players for that matter. And he wants it all his way. Well, he's getting it all his way and he's getting exactly what he deserves, So that's my opinion on it.
Strong views, but I do completely agree with Sean. You're saying exactly what Mike Ashley deserves. Definitely not what the fans deserve, Laurie. But what is going wrong? Because we have spoke about it. It's been a heavy theme on this show, the tactics, Steve Bruce, the players don't know what they're doing. We are 7-8 games in now, including the League Cup. How can the players still not know what they're doing? And also, normally when the players aren't playing for the manager, they're not motivated, they're not getting that spark, they still toe that party line, like, we just need to be better. We're hearing players come out and saying we don't know what we're doing. There's no bigger alarming signal than the players saying we don't know what we're doing, and it's out there for all to see. How worrying is this, Laurie?
Well, the thing is, and I'm actually a little bit reluctant to blame the players because, since we've come back up and Rafa's come in, we've praised this group, which is largely the same group because we haven't signed that many people, for their, increased application, the way they've approached fighting for the badge in a way that we never had before we got relegated. And the fact is that these players who were playing well under Rafa Benitez, particularly in the second half of last season, have just regressed completely, as Jim alluded to before. And I mean, Sean Longstaff is a perfect example. He's been absolutely horrific this season, to the extent where I think if he'd come into the team this season, we'd be thinking he's bang average. He's never going to get another first team game for Newcastle because honestly, he's been horrific. But even on Saturday, Fabian Schär, our best player, was awful. He was out of position. He was giving the ball away. We had no line in defence, no shape, and all the problems. And I'm actually really glad what Sean just said in terms of the fact that Mike Ashley deserves Steve Bruce and deserves the way we're playing at the moment, because I got a bit of stick last week for saying we don't deserve to beat Leicester, but quite frankly, standing there in the away end in the rain with us singing and the team playing like that, it almost felt like last time we got relegated when we were playing Spurs and we already knew we were down and the fans were singing, and with that there was the extra positivity of obviously wanting Rafa to stay. With this, it's just almost like acceptance already that we're absolutely terrible. We heard one of the chants, we're insert blank here.
Not very good.
And do you know what? I honestly feel like now, and I know it's early in the season, and I know you could say, I don't think they're going to sack Steve Bruce, so bearing that in mind, I honestly feel like now I'd rather get cut off and be at the bottom for the rest of the season, resign to the fact that we're going to get relegated, rather than have this vague hope that we might string a bit of form together and stay up by the skin of our teeth, because I've got no interest in watching Newcastle stay up in 17th place by just managing to bang out a slightly better than, I don't know, any Sheffield United. I don't care. I'd rather be cut off and enjoy the away days for the atmosphere and just not give a care in the world for our league position, honestly.
Wow.
What struck me was the pre-match, the match itself, obviously, and then the post-match as well with Steve Bruce. And what you never saw with other managers, and I was talking about other managers doing this, it seems to be a real modern phenomenon that modern managers, and particularly a lot of foreign managers, seem to deflect and have a real sort of almost political media training when it comes to dealing with pre and post match conferences, and we all know that Bruce is from the old school of British football management.
Of dinosaurs.
Yeah, the Jurassic Park of it. But the pre-match there was this wry smirk on his face about talking about front foot football initially before it went in, and then the match played out as it did, and then when the post-match came round, it was, we're going to get the players in or out of training depending on how he feels. That's going to work on a Sunday, and we're going to this player and this player. It was about a lack of grit, graft, and it was just. He was just throwing them under the bus.
Yeah.
And that is a really, really, really terrible sign. 7 games in, and you're talking about being given a chance. To echo just what Laurie said, why should we kind of get behind that? And then if this happens and transpires the way Laurie's just described, why should we sustain and tolerate that for the remainder of the season? It just seems to be evident of a very ongoing downward curve and further downward curve and narrative of mediocrity and a lack of ambition, a tolerance of just making do, and we're sick of it. We're absolutely pig sick of it.
We can see, it's all there in your voice, in your passion. Jim, you just mentioned there then the players are maybe being thrown under the bus, and that brings me to, we know the fans have boycotted, they're revolting of Steve Bruce as a manager and regime. Could we see the players themselves start to rebel because they're coming out, we're hearing the whispers, they don't know what they're doing, and now the players are being thrown under the bus? Maybe it might not be the fans. Could the players, it could be down to them going, we're not doing this anymore. Could we start to see that, Sean?
I think without a doubt, it's often the where this sort of thing does transpire through the dressing room sort of thing, So, I mean, there was just this just ridiculous comments coming out of Steve Bruce, like on his interview, like sort of after the match, and he was saying that sort of he's yet to see Almiron play and stuff and things like that. And we're 7 games in, the lad's getting a start on every game, so I don't know where he's looking. But then it wasn't just a slip of the tongue, that, because then he went on to talk about that, like sort of, we've got a tough game at Manchester this weekend. So it's just like he doesn't even know just the basics of whereabouts they're going to be playing the following weekend, So, and who's on the pitch. It's just so, yeah. If that doesn't transpire down the dressing room, then I don't know what they'll be listening to, because it's certainly transpiring across the fan base.
It certainly is worrying times ahead. The players are starting to make a little bit of noise. And do you agree? Tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us on 0208 70 20 558. It's your team, your voice. Next, we'll be looking at those player comments.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio. I like Putin. He gets me. I like Trump. I've got him. Follow at Love Sport Radio on Twitter for all the latest news, views, competitions, and the best bits from your favourite station. Love Sport, the station giving fans a voice.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it,
sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do, the smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes. Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. A spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
A fighting for you, saving you money.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F, face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
This is Love Sport.
You are listening to the Newcastle Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins, and I'm joined by Jim Kohlberg from the London Magpies, Love Sport's very own Laurie Callis, and unbelievably, Sean has decided to stick around for the second segment. I mean, I can't believe it. This script, the running order's gone way out because we're going to have guests, but Sean's decided to stay and speak. Let's speak about what the players are actually saying. They're coming out of training, there are whispers of videos, they're talking about Rafa not being here. Laurie, can you enlighten us a little bit what Lascelles is saying and what the Newcastle players are feeling about this current situation?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Lascelles thing this week's a little bit hard to tell because obviously when you get these videos that fans upload to Twitter, you kind of get one angle of it and it's like not given due context and all that kind of thing. Obviously, one thing we've seen is this fan asking to get his cab paid back to Newcastle, and Lascelles has said, "Oh, I've got no cash," and then he's like, "Oh, you earn 40 grand a week." I feel like you can't hold that against him too much. Like, he's come out of his car, everyone else has gone straight on the bus. Do you know what I mean? So at least he was coming out to talk to the fans. And then this other comment that he supposedly said, which is, "What am I supposed to do? Rafa's not here anymore." I personally think that, as much as I'd love that to be a dig at Steve Bruce, get a little bit of banter going on in the dressing room, player uprising. I don't think it is that. I think essentially what's happened is someone said, "Oh well, this wouldn't have happened if Rafa was here," and then he said, "Oh well, Rafa isn't here." So I don't think it's that kind of. I don't think it's a rebellious kind of crazy thing for Lascelles to have said. Having said that, the players clearly aren't confident about what's going on, because if he was confident in what the players were doing, he'd say, "Look, we've done our best, we've played really well." He's not defending them, so he's clearly accepting that there's something wrong as a captain. And we saw in his Sky interview, he wasn't happy with the way the team played. So I'm not going to get on the bandwagon of bashing Lascelles, because quite frankly there's too many other people first who I'd blame more than him.
Sorry, Jim,
it's telling when it comes down to these sort of ad hoc elements of filming with fans when they catch a player off guard, and that there's these very managed media situations where there's always a party line of one form or another, and this is clearly caught him by surprise. And credit to him in the sense that I believe all the other players had gotten the coach. The fans were asking to speak to the players, and he got out of his car.
Fair play for that.
And spoke to fans. But it does. He's completely unprepared as a result of that, and it's come out. What am I supposed to do? Rafa's not here. I believe based on the story that was in one of the local newspapers, it said that he was asked, this would not be happening if Rafa was here, and that's his response. So it's we've got the club captain coming out. My understanding was Steve Bruce went straight down the tunnel, despite all the fan celebration, and if you can call it that, at Leicester, and all the songs and things like that. He just went straight down the tunnel, and then it seems it's the likes of Lascelles left to be the front and answer for all the stuff that's going on as well. So it's just such a perverse situation. It's very strange.
In most cases, obviously, when you lose a manager, it's because the club are ready to move on, a fresh start. It's gone stale. The fans certainly want to change. Very much in this case, Newcastle fans really wanted Rafa to stick around, to still be at the helm. Like Sean said earlier, he is a world-class manager. That is what Newcastle had at their disposal. I've never noticed, I don't know about you three, when a team has lost a manager, to still be talking 7-8 games in a season, we're still very much, what would Rafa do? How heavy does this hang over? Not Steve Bruce, because this is not a defence of him, but how heavy is this still hanging over the club, Sean?
I think massively so, to be fair. It just goes to show you how little Mike Ashley knows about football, it's a total undermining of the game. And like you say, we are over 8-9 weeks later, or 10 weeks, whatever it is, since Rafa actually left, and we're still talking about it now, you know. And it's like, because the difference in that squad, and it's more to do with that, it's because the same squad is fundamentally there, and we know how he had them playing. Like, yes, we didn't have the greatest start in the season and stuff with him, but we weren't getting demolished on the pitch, you know. They weren't walking around with their heads down, shrugging their shoulders, going to the touchline, asking where they had to be on the pitch, what the setup was, what the formation is. They know, I mean, this is a bunch of lads that don't know what they're doing. I mean, they're professional footballers, you know, and they're not getting no help, you know. So it's just like, at the end of the day, I don't care who you are, what you are, you know, with your occupation and stuff and things like that, but you wouldn't go into any job and not know what you're doing on within that environment, you know. So whether that's like from anything from building a bridge, do you know what I mean, to kicking a football, you need to have some kind of a system in place. So, and Steve Bruce is supposed to be the coach that's managing this situation, and he's not. So, you know, we had questions asked very early on about him within the season and stuff. So, and it was like, well, what is he doing in the training sessions? Or is he sitting them down? And, you know, like, obviously they go out and they do like the exercise and stuff and things, you know, and then some training and techniques and corners and free kicks, etc., etc. Are they coming back into the training room, and are they watching videos on the opposition, or are they actually doing the homework on that side? Because it looks like they're going out on the pitch and they don't know what they're doing. They've gone from last year being a sort of a decent sort of ranked team to actually kind of, they look like a bunch of Sunderleaguers that don't even know each other.
What is so strange is now, tell me if I'm wrong, I feel like Steve Bruce has never had this criticism before. I'm not saying that he was labelled a great manager, but I don't remember him at any of the clubs he managed, people saying the players didn't know what they were doing in the tactics, you know, tactical awareness, the warm-ups, you know, the training. Why is this seem to have come up now? And why have the players really made a noise about this now? Because, you know, he's come out in his own defence and said, I've managed over 900 league games. Like, where has this all come from, Laurie?
Well, I mean, that's not very wise to bring that up, because you just look at his win percentage. But the reason why it's come up is because it's not Hull City who are appointing him. It's Newcastle United, and you can say whatever you want, but teams who we should be at least on a level playing field with, the likes of, even, I know they came up last season, but Aston Villa wouldn't appoint Steve Bruce now. Like, he wasn't good enough for them in the Championship. Do you know what I mean? And it's the fact of going from Rafa Benitez. It's obviously been highlighted. But I mean, I've heard Nathan Jones might be available shortly. He seems like the sort of calibre of manager we'd be right up for going for if we need to replace him. But I think what's telling is we haven't even talked today in half an hour about talking about the match, about the red card. Yeah, now, if you lose 5-0 and we're only 1-0 down at the time and you get a red card, it's quite easy to make the argument, oh, well, we capitulated after that. We never regained our shape. He's potentially our best central midfielder in terms of ball retention, and we haven't even mentioned it. All we've mentioned is the fact that Steve Bruce isn't able to organise his players, isn't able to have any ideas, create shape.
The thing is, Laurie's, we've seen it even when he's got 11 players on the pitch. So whether that red card would have made no difference, you know, one way or another.
I agree, and that's kind of my point. Like, we haven't even mentioned it, and because not one Newcastle fan thinks that has anything to do with the performance. Like, if Rafa had them 10 men, he would have done far better than Steve Bruce. And I don't actually like to do the comparison, because I don't think it's really that worthwhile, because everyone knows that Rafa Benitez is a better manager than Steve Bruce. But
even after the red card, did you think it was a bit strange, that decision to then make a sub then as well with 1 minute to go before half time? Like, I didn't see what.
Why didn't he wait and then sort a new tactical game plan out? Now we'll change it. Yeah,
like making that substitution just seemed bizarre timing as well. You know, the stuff like that. That's.
But then it's another thing he doesn't have to worry about half time, because let's not forget he has just met Almiron, who he started for 7 games. He hasn't seen much of him.
Yeah.
He can use the half-time team talk to find out what he can do. Let's talk a little bit about that red card, because some have labelled it disgusting, a terrible challenge. Sean, what were your thoughts on the red card itself?
You know, it's one of them. I don't think it was malicious in the sense that he went out to do that. You know, he's took the ball. So if he had just run across to a player and his foot was high and it was straight into the knee the way it was, then obviously I would be saying, yeah, that's awful. The challenge did end up in a bad way, and it was a nasty tackle in that respect. However, he wasn't going in for a tackle, he was just going for the ball. And it was actually the aftermath after that, but I don't think that it was majorly malicious. I think he's going down the ground, the pitch is slippy, his legs gone up in the air, so I can understand why the refs give a red card. I can understand why even VAR's looked at it, because it's one of them where the majority of everybody out there that I've spoke to have all said, oh yeah, no, without doubt it's a red, and I'll accept that. At the end of the day, it wasn't going to make a massive amount of difference to us on the pitch that day.
Well, you'll accept it. Hayden, he wasn't that quick to accept it, because he said, well, if you can't do challenges like that, in so many words, he said, football's being lost. Like, he said, why can't we do challenges like that anymore? Something to those effects. Jim, what did you make of the challenge and what he had to say afterwards?
Firstly, I thought it was hilarious that Graham Souness was saying it was a blatant red.
Because he's never made a challenge.
No, he's he's an absolute
fairy.
Fairy, yeah. So it was very, very telling, I think, that in games prior, the players who have been saying things like, what's going on, this isn't working, are the likes of Hayden. And there you have it, a very ill-disciplined, dangerous challenge. And he had to see red, in my opinion, because if that lad's legs at a different angle, slightly different angle by a couple of degrees, it's a leg break. And he would have, you have to protect players like that. And there's a mass indiscipline in terms of the challenges like that when they go flying in, the team shape, the communication, the organisation between different elements of the team. So defence, midfield, and attack. There's no cohesion like there was before in those. Joe Linton, he scored a couple of good goals for us initially, but he's just playing like a defensive midfielder at the minute, and just not seeing any of the ball, not getting any space or any service or anything like that. It's just, I think, although we've said it ad nauseum now, although the red card had an impact on the game, it didn't really impact the performance that we put out, and it was kind of embodied a lot of the performances that we've already seen throughout the season. And that's very showing for me, is that Hayden was linked with those two incidents of both going over to the bench and then showing clear frustration in the Leicester game, resulting in that. It's like as if it's boiled to a head, all this.
I think Laurie and yourself make very good points. We're talking about the disappointing defeat and the performance, 5-0, and no red card. Sean, you also made good points.
Oh,
but I just meant in the point of Laurie said there, we've spoke about the game. We haven't actually spoke about the card. And, it's more worrying Steve Bruce tactics, the performance, and really the red card was not brought up until such a while in the show. But talking of impact, next we're going to be talking about Almiron and his impact and where he can next take that step against Man United.
Love sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're on.
Secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in.
Tenna men. Keep control.
You're in.
No.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do, the smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. A spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
This is Love Sport.
You are listening to the Newcastle Fan Show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins. I'm joined in the studio with Jim Kohlberg from London Magpies, Laurie Callis and Sean Wade. We were just talking about that red card. You know, it didn't even make a difference to that performance. It didn't even come up. It was all about Steve Bruce, the tactics and what the players had to say. Let's talk about more of those comments by Steve Bruce, because he did say he wasn't quite sure on Almiron. He hadn't seen much of him, even though he started every game. I'm laughing. I'm trying to keep a straight face because unbelievably, when I heard that and I saw it, I did start laughing. I mean, it's quite unbelievable. Laurie, what did you make of it?
Well, what can you?
I'm just here to cheer you up.
What can you make of a comment like that? I mean, it's just, it's almost not worth analysing just because it's just completely ridiculous. And like, do we need another reason to call him clueless? Probably not. But I mean, in terms of the position that he's playing, any expert who's seen him play, MLS expert, South American football expert, whoever you talk to, is like, Almiron is the best through the middle. If you look at his stats, his goals and assists throughout his career comes from playing through the middle. He's not an inside forward, he's not a winger, and you can see that in the way that he takes players on. Like, he runs in straight lines. He's not one of these players who drops the shoulder and comes inside. He's definitely not one of those players who takes you to the line.
You beautifully dropped the shoulder then, even to demonstrate. That was lovely.
Well, yeah,
Newcastle are missing
sent me
out.
the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, Almiron can't do it, bless him. But he's also not the sort of player who'll take you to the line. Like, he's not that sort of winger. I mean, we always talk about Rashford, how he should be on the wing, not playing through the middle. And I'm not saying we should play Almiron as centre forward, but what I'm saying is that he's clearly best suited as a central player. And if you look at his partnership that he had with Joseph Martinez at Atlanta, everyone in the world seems to know that he should be playing centrally, apart from Steve Bruce. And to be honest, that tells its own story.
I do have to agree with you there, because I believe Almiron is a super talent. I watched a lot of him in the MLS, and I refuse to believe that the goal from the MLS to the Premier League, this is not why he's doing it. There's something, I don't know if it is the out of position or he just hasn't been caught up to speed yet, but the player that Newcastle are seeing in a minute is not the best Almiron, that's for sure. But if you can see it, and everyone else can see it, that, you know, he should be played, you know, down the middle, not on the wing, why is he played out on the wing, Jim? This is another one for tactical shape, formation, you know, awareness. Why is there so many holes that we can point at?
Because the likes of Steve Bruce, whoever comes in, the system...
Sorry.
The system...
Honestly, if you're listening, this isn't an hour of berating Steve Bruce, but it is leading towards that.
I said the likes of Steve Bruce because similar managers before him who have been hired for particular reasons are there to accept what they're given in terms of the players. They don't. It made me laugh when he first arrived, and that it was like, you know who this player is, and it was kind of like a nervous tug of the collar and a yeah. He's a good lad. He's a top lad. Is old Joe Linton, yeah. And it was an embarrassment, and to see, and it stems from that top there in the sense that they don't sign players for the manager they've got. They don't sign players for the positions that they need at various times. It's all dependent on a release clause or what's available or a certain agent or something like that. But poor Almiron, coming back to him, I think he was really starting to find his feet, and all he needed was a goal when he had the two players in Perez and Rondon around him, and then the whole system was just swiped away. And I actually disagree a little bit with what Sean was saying earlier about the same squad being there, because we've just got rid of all our goals in those two players, who one was featuring for Leicester.
To be fair though, Jim, Sean is a little bit rusty. He's had 4 weeks off, so his comments aren't the best.
Do you think that, or either of you, do you think that Steve Bruce is under pressure to play Joe Linton every game or start him because we've signed him for £40 million? Do you think Charnley's in his ear? Because there's certain system that we're playing now. He's great at holding the ball up, but actually, if he's not forward, then he's not going to score. We saw in the box he's got ability to score against Tottenham, but do you think that? Like, I don't want to take the load off Steve Bruce, but it's fine if we're putting it on Charnley. Do you think there is pressure to play Joe Linton?
Well, there should be, in a sense. He is a £40 million signing, and he's being brought in to replace Rondon or Perez, for that matter, so he should be being played, and really he should have been brought in earlier in the transfer window, if anything, to allow him to gel. But we'll look at it back in January. Mike Ashley apparently had offered him to Rafa then. So this is also Mike Ashley who doesn't pick the squad. So there's a few question marks over that area. But Rafa didn't want him. He didn't believe that he was right for the squad. But that was with the setup of Perez and Rondon and stuff. So come the summer, Rondon wasn't brought into the squad, so they refused to sign him, and which obviously Rafa was against that. And then Perez is sold for 30 million, so to enable with to buy Joe Linton for 40. Rafa's gone on to China, and he's actually signed Rondon himself out there, so, and he's making great headway out there. So it's like, at the end of the day, if it was me and I had a world-class manager at my disposal, and I would be asking him advice, and I would be saying, right, which direction do you want to take the squad in? How do you want to do things? like what they're doing over in China, funny enough. But Mike Ashley, being Mike Ashley, seems to know that he thinks, or seems to think that he knows more about football than anyone else. So, come this summer, he had already made his mind up that he was buying Joe Linton, that he was going to get rid of Perez, and he wasn't going to sign Rondon, because it's all his choice. It's not so. And then Steve Bruce is brought in as a coach, so I can't really blame Steve Bruce. It's just he's out of his depth. We highly suspected this was going to be the case. He's been given a fair crack at the whip, but Mike Ashley paid a lot of money for Steve Bruce compensation from Sheffield. He's now possibly going to be in a scenario where he's going to sack Steve Bruce at some point, probably after the January transfer window, I would imagine.
The championship season.
Yeah, and then basically, could happen then once we've been relegated. I'm not sure when, but but either way, he's going to have to pay him compensation again. So.
Well, let's talk about Ashley, because there was a rumoured or takeover bid last week. Obviously, Kenyon in for Newcastle, still short of that asking price, that value that Ashley wants. Let's talk about it, because there was a brochure, 46 pages. I managed to have a look. Very shiny, very glossy. Will it work though? Sean, I'll come back to you first. What did you make, and especially when this news broke, what did you think of it?
Well, I thought it was nice to see the brochure. We've waited a year to see it, haven't we, really? all in all, because it was just...
Because Steve Bruce, unparalleled in Europe.
Yes, yeah.
He had two players who we don't have anymore on the front of it, and also the old Premier League badge on.
Yeah. So,
it was done with Microsoft Paint. I mean, it was a very old brochure.
No Comic Sans in a mess, though. So that was nice.
At least there's now two people who think Steve Bruce is a good manager, as well as Ashley Peter Kenyon.
That's pretty unparalleled. Laurie, what did you make of it then when you heard this news breaking?
Oh, I didn't want to steal Sean's.
Sorry, because Sean stopped. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Honestly, my heart sank. The hashtag NUFC takeover. You just can't. I'm never going to believe it until it's signed, sealed, delivered. I can't.
But the thing is, Ashley said it himself, didn't he? He said, by the time you read anything like this in the press, then it's not going to happen.
It's already dead in the water.
Yeah, So, his own words have said that himself. But didn't he also say that he was would know his decision in 10 days' time? Do you know what I mean? So how pathetic is that? 1 minute he's saying things like, it's good, by the time you've heard about it in the press, it's already a dead deal, so... And then he's saying, but I'll have a decision in 10 days. So it's just pathetic. No one's bothered. I think everyone's just gave up the ghost on that one.
Well, we heard about the failed takeover bid from Ratcliffe, wasn't it? Ratcliffe?
Jim Ratcliffe, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he even bidded, did he? He just decided not to because it was such a...
Went to Nice.
Well, he heard about the valuation, obviously, and then he balked at the price. But can we say, not obviously not in fairness to Mike Ashley, but if he does have this price, why does everyone keep underbidding? We heard about this 350. We keep hearing this figure pop up. Kenyon's coming at 300. If they're really serious about buying Newcastle, I know it's a big chunk of money. I'm not getting ahead of myself, but if he has got his valuation for whatever reason, why do we keep hearing these takeover bids fall well short of that, Jim? All right, Sean.
It's beyond me. It's absolutely beyond me at this point. I see what's going on at other clubs as well, like Rangers, and without going into that too much. There's stuff going on there that doesn't bode well in terms of Newcastle United, and there's obviously more complex things at play than meeting an asking price, and there seems to be all these things that seem to be attached to that. We all know that Sports Direct as a brand is a big focus of what goes on at Newcastle United.
It's the only focus, it seems.
Yeah,
priority number one.
I was being charitable there. Yeah,
I'll say it's fine.
Thanks. So, yeah, that's it. If it doesn't suit, he's a famous non-seller as well. He's very famous for buying up distressed brands, but infamous for not letting go of assets easily either. And it's not as simple, I don't think, as to answer it frankly, as meeting a zero number. In the millions, it's just, but it's beyond me. It's just a bizarre situation.
Yeah, in valuation, it almost feels like Mike Ashley's looking at a circle, and everyone's like, "That's a circle. That's a circle." He's like, "No, it's definitely a square, mind." But do you know what I mean? Like, everyone knows that he's overvaluing the club, and whether that's because he just doesn't want to sell, which I'm sure a lot of us think is the case, or whether it's for another reason completely. At the end of the day, he calls himself a good businessman, but someone else who's going to come and put in a bid who calls themselves a good businessman is not going to pay 50 million extra than what they think it's worth. They're just not.
How can he be a good businessman, though, at the end of the day? I mean, he's got like a £605 million tax bill that he didn't see was coming. So, I mean, that doesn't shout out good businessman. The thing is that he's made his millions because he actually bought cheap stock, sold it high. Do you know what I mean? And now he's trying to go into different directions of owning a football club and things. You know, he should have quit while he was ahead and sold up his stock years ago. You know, when it was all worth £8 a share, and if he had sold up then and walked away like a multi-billionaire, then we could have said, yeah, he is a good businessman. But I mean, his shares are worth toffee. You know, he's got a football club that's heading towards sort of relegation again for a third time. This bloke is not a good businessman, and the sooner that people wake up and realise this, the better.
Well, not a good businessman. Strong views, but always ones we agree with here on the Newcastle Fan Show. Tweet us at Love Sport Radio or call us on 0208 70 20 558. We have to get back to the footballing matters. It is Man United on the weekend. We'll be talking to Jack Ranson all about the game to preview it.
I've heard that England does not have a kidney bank, but it does have a Liverpool. Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Hi, my name's Kurt Edwards. I work in advertising and live in Surrey. Last year, the family content insurance was £745. A friend of mine had recommended a spokesmansaid.com. When it came for this year's renewal, I managed to get it for £403. So for those 10 minutes on that website, I saved over £340. Told my family, my friends, you'd be absolutely mad not to give it a go.
thespokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do. The smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting London businesses of all sizes.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
Love Sport. The opposition view on Love Sport.
That's right. It's time for the opposition view. This is the Newcastle fan show on Love Sport Radio with me, Charlie Hawkins. I'm joined by Jim Kohlberg from the London Magpies, Love Sport's very own Laurie Callis, and Sean Wade. Unbelievably, 47 minutes in and the man is still here. The staying power has increased. The stamina is off the charts. We are just about to preview the game with Man United on the weekend. A huge game for both sides as well, because both sides not in the greatest of form. I'm delighted to say Jack Ranson from BBC Radio Manchester has joined us. Jack, thank you for giving us a little bit of your time. Obviously, we know Newcastle's thoughts heading into this game. What do Man United think? Is this a fixture where they can bounce back?
Yeah, evening, guys. I think it's probably going to be, certainly the idea is bounce back, improved performance, start to get some points on the board because, obviously what's been made of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's win percentage, his poor form at the moment, worse record over the last 26 games than Jose Mourinho had at the end of his time at United. So clearly pressure on him to deliver, pressure on the players to deliver. I suppose, one of the negative factors or one of the mitigating factors is the injury list, which will still, even, by the time we get to Sunday, I would suggest it's still going to be pretty extensive. No sign of Anthony Martial in the squad for the Europa League match tomorrow. No sign of Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Also, Paul Pogba out for who knows how long. So those are the problems. But certainly, yeah, United want to bounce back and want to put in a positive performance and get a positive result.
Jack, I've got two questions for you. I personally think that Man United are way off Leicester, who we played last week. I was adamant that we would lose 5-0 last week to Leicester. We did lose 5-0, and that's that. But Man United are really quite disappointing at the moment. Basically, my first question is, are you, after Newcastle, the second worst team in the league at the moment? And secondly, how many goals would Man United have conceded last night against Bayern?
Oh, well, yeah. That is a good question. I would agree with you in terms of, certainly Leicester a better team than Manchester United at the moment. I think against Arsenal though, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has come out with some things which I disagree with, some things which I do agree with. One of the things that I did agree with after the game against Arsenal was he said it was an improved performance. There were bits of positivity in there, and certainly compared to, say, when they played Rochdale in the EFL Cup, when they looked so lethargic, so slow, no intensity. Against Arsenal, there was a bit more purpose to their play. They really, stopped Arsenal creating too much, and they had a couple of absolute gilt-edged chances which they should have put away. So I don't think it's as bad as people are making out. I think a lot of people watched that game and thought, God, this is awful, but actually, it's kind of what we've been getting used to at Old Trafford for quite a while now. So it was actually a little bit better than what we've seen in recent times. So I wouldn't say that they are, in danger of, staying in the bottom half of the table permanently. I think there will be a turnaround. The results will pick up, and they'll play. Obviously they'll look at a game like this at Newcastle and they'll think, well, this is exactly where we need to be picking up those points. So. I don't think it's as bad as people are making out. I think, against Bayern Munich, though, last night, God knows how many they'd have conceded because they are a far, they're a different level away. Obviously, we saw Spurs, ship 7, but United, again, are another level down from that even. So, I don't know. I wouldn't even put a number on it because it would have been embarrassing.
Hi, Jack. Sean here. We have seen Man U slide down the table in recent times, and it must be a bit uphill to take, to be fair, more so when your neighbours next door are doing so well in the league. But, I mean, you've got sort of Newcastle on Sunday. Me, quite honestly, I'm not expecting anything from Newcastle on that game. We've been highly disappointed with Steve Bruce. I mean, he played for Man U and was such a great player for Man U. he protests. He's been in management for the past 20 years and stuff, but he seems to be getting so many things wrong at Newcastle, and for all he is a Geordie and everything else, but he just seems to be struggling. So my first question would be, what do you think's going wrong? I mean, obviously you've known him as a player and stuff, and how he was successful there. And also, my other point would be, where do you see Man U ending up at the end of the season?
Well, in terms of Steve Bruce and what's going wrong, I suppose it's from an outside perspective, to me it just seems like there is a mismatch, or even from the start there was a mismatch between sort of fan expectations and the appointment itself, in terms of ambition and in terms of, it always seemed like it was doomed. And I know that obviously the football hasn't really done much to help that situation, but I think, it's not miles worse in terms of what Newcastle have produced in recent seasons. I think it was more just the mindset in terms of the ambition of the appointment. And also, what I would say from a Manchester United perspective, and what has perhaps contributed to their problems, is they're in a real problem area, because they're not a top team, and yet clubs still get up for playing United as if they're a top team. We saw it when they went to West Ham. West Ham produced great performance. United were awful, but it's still a scalp to beat United. So I think Newcastle will be improved because, like you say, former club. I think Steve Bruce will be up for it. I think he'll have got his side up for it. I think the fans will be up for it, and they'll sense that they can get something perhaps against a weakened United side. Where United will end up at the end of the season, I would say they'll probably manage top 6 at a push, but certainly, as I say, things are going to have to improve quickly. Hopefully, from a United perspective, the injury situation will improve as well, because that will certainly help.
Well, just very quickly, Jack, we know that top 6 for United is that good enough for where they want to be, but we have to put you on the spot. What is your score prediction for the weekend? And remember, Jack, this is the Newcastle Fan Show.
Yeah. I think, I think it's going to be low scoring. United haven't scored more than 1 in a game since the opening day of the season. So I think it will be 1-1.
1-1. Newcastle may take that. I'll have to get their predictions. Jack, it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Thanks for coming on and giving us a little bit of your time. Jack Ranson there from BBC Radio Manchester. I have to turn it to you, Jim. What are your thoughts and score prediction for the weekend?
Well, 1-1 would be very optimistic.
Would you take 1-1 now, Jim?
Probably. After the last 2 games, however, the scorelines are becoming more and more of an irrelevance, unfortunately, and I'm probably not a good time to ask me right now. But I mean, I can't see. It's an ideal time for a team like Man United to play a team like Newcastle. People must be across the league must be just looking at us now and thinking, this is the ideal team. This is the ideal time to play. So I can't see anything but a defeat at this point. And probably it's going to be. My optimism will be 1-0 to Man United.
1-0 to Man United. Laurie and Sean, I'm going to have to really push you, but what are your score predictions and thoughts for the weekend?
Yeah, funnily enough, for the first time ever probably against United, I wish we were playing away. I think we'd have a better chance. St James's Park must be awful to play for at the minute as a player. But, I mean, they're going to be I honestly think they're going to be one of the worst teams we'll play over the next 6 weeks. If I'm going to guess a win in one game, I'm going to guess it this week. I think 2-0, but I was very, very, very optimistic 2-0 Newcastle.
Absolutely love it. Sean, to end the show.
Oh God! If Steve Bruce turns up at Old Trafford, then we might get a win. However, if he does turn up, if he does turn up at St James's on Sunday, then I think we're going to struggle even against Man U. Who are struggling this season. So I'm going to very quickly go very unhappily 2-0 to Man U, basically.
Sean went for a United win. Jim, you were saying optimistic if they can get that draw. Laurie, you was going for that win. It is a very mixed bag in here. Obviously, Jack thinks United could do it, but he did say 1-1. It's going to be a great game on the weekend. Either way, we will talk all we'll talk all the fallout from next week. This has been the Newcastle Fan Show on Love Sport Radio. Catch it every Wednesday, 7 to 8.
This is love sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive. And make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Can you save money on your energy bills? Tony did, with help from a spokesmansaid.com. Getting people real savings.
I'm Tony from Northampton. My bills for gas and electricity had gone straight through the roof. I chose a Spokesman Said, and they saved me £2,800. It was so easy, I used them for my house and contents insurance too.
For help saving money on your energy bills, go to a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money. If you're in business, I bet you hate wasting money. We Do Taxi Tops can help you achieve minimum wastage on your advertising costs and maximum exposure. Our revolutionary taxi tops can target your potential customers in the right place at the right time, so your message has the greatest potential for making an impact. We Do Taxi Tops. Visit WEDOOH.com. We Do, the smarter, quicker way of advertising in London, supporting